And we will call the salary board to order and begin with the roll call, please.
Commissioner Nieder.
Here.
Commissioner Fauci.
I'm here.
Commissioner Eichelberger.
Is someone on for Commissioner Whitcomb or Controller Whitcomb?
I'm not seeing anybody right now. Controller Whitcomb.
Okay. Is there any public comment related to any item on the salary of the salary board at this time? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the minutes.
So moved.
I'll second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next up, an approval of the salary board actions. I'll entertain a motion for that as well.
I'll move for approval.
I'll second. It's moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is there any other business to come before the salary board at this time? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for an adjournment on the salary board. We are adjourned from the salary board, and we will begin the Board of Commissioners meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We will now call to order the Board of Commissioners meeting. We can begin with the roll call, please, Audrey.
Commissioner Nieder.
Here.
Commissioner Fauci.
I'm here.
Commissioner Eichelberger.
All right. Is there any public comment on non-agenda items at this time for the Board of Commissioners? If there's anyone online that would like to make a public comment, please use the raise your hand feature. Audrey, is there anyone indicating they would like to make a public comment at this time?
No, not at this time.
Is there anyone in the room for public comment? Apparently not. Heard something, but I think that's a monitor. That's okay. All right. Next up, as I always say, this is the absolute best part of our meeting when we get to acknowledge employees for their long-term commitment to the county. And we will start first with Elizabeth Shoemaker from Public Safety and call up Bob Shively to make a few comments. Oh, there he is. Yeah, that's here. Okay. Congratulations.
Oh, thanks. So, well, Liz has been with the county now 20 years. So we are very lucky that we were able to swipe her away from the Cumberland County Nursing Home. She spent a lot of years there doing the scheduling, which anyone that does scheduling can imagine what the trials and tribulations would have been with that. And came to our department and quickly learned a lot of our finance and admin duties, and is our smiling face usually whenever you're greeted at the front door. So thanks for everything you do for us in the county, and we're happy to have you and really pleased for your 20 years. So good job.
All right. Did you get what you need, Ben? Or?
Helps out.
Okay.
Yep. One more here. Okay.
Paparazzi.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good job, Flash.
All right, next up, we have some folks here from our Sheriff's Department. I'd like to call them forward. Ron, are you?
Steve, the sheriff.
Okay.
Make him get up.
Okay, that's Ron.
Nice try.
Thank you. Sergeant Bender is our operations sergeant with the Sheriff's Office. He began his 25-year career as a security officer before quickly being promoted to a deputy sheriff and working his way through the ranks to operations sergeant. He is in charge of our court security, our prisoner transportation, our scheduling, which, as you know, is nightmare. As well as our fugitive division, and he runs our operations division smoothly, effortlessly. We are very proud to have him on our staff and grateful for your years of service. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just from the Board of Commissioners, we also wanted to thank both of you for this year, for your years of service and, you know, all that you're managing and scheduling at 911. And I don't know the number of employees you have out there, Bob, and I know that the number in the Sheriff's Department, so many moving parts and components. And it's in both instances, keeping us safe and citizens safe within the county. So thank you both for all that you're doing.
Thank you.
This is for you.
Oh, well, now we get the serious ones. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Sergeant.
Congratulations.
Right chair this time.
Yes. All right, now we will move on into the consent agenda, and I will turn that over to Angela to take over. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Commissioner. The next section of our agenda is the consent agenda, which is routine items that do not require further discussion, and this is agenda items 6 through 13. If anybody would like to have discussion on any of these items, now is the time to make that request. Hearing none, I would ask for approval of the consent agenda.
Somebody like to make that motion? I will move to approve.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you so much.
Take us right into the regular agenda. And Angela, you're still up.
All right, that takes us to agenda item 14, which we have several faces in the room to discuss for us. Ron Snow from Finance, Erica Weibel from McNeese, Wallace and Nurk, and Brad Remick with PFM to discuss an ordinance regarding bond issuance. And Ron, I will hand it over to you.
Good morning, Commissioners. As Angela mentioned, we have the bond team back again to discuss our resolution related to our bond issue 2024. So Erica is going to give you a quick overview of the resolution.
Ordinance,
sorry.
Yeah. Good morning, Commissioners. So in front of you this morning is an ordinance. This has been prepared by McNeese in accordance with the Local Government Unit Debt Act. It was properly advertised on September 19th in accordance with the Debt Act, and it was circulated among our financing group and review as well. This ordinance authorizes the county to issue its general obligation bond series of 2024 in the maximum principal amount of $18 million. Those proceeds will be used to finance various capital projects of the county, specifically the county's public safety radio network. As we've talked about in some of the past meetings, this is a parameters ordinance. So it authorizes certain parameters within which the final structure needs to fit within. As is typical with a parameters ordinance, the amount of bonds being authorized is higher than the amount of the final borrowing. So we use 18 million. It gives some flexibility with pricing and structuring so that the result is the best for the county, but the final number will come in right around that 15 million number that we've been discussing. On the date of the sale, which I believe is October 9, PFM will share with you a summary of that winning bid. McNeese will confirm that it's within the parameters that it's in the ordinance here, and if it's acceptable to you, then this ordinance authorizes you to sign that bid form. One other quick comment I'll make is that the ordinance does authorize general obligation bonds. And as you're familiar, general obligation bonds carry with them the pledge of the county's full faith credit and tax neutrality. So quick overview, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Does anyone have any questions of Erica at this time? You know, the one question that I was asked by the general public was if there was availability for individuals to buy our bonds. People had an interest in supporting Cumberland County. And Brad, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I know that's a little challenging. Is there a market maker that they can reach out to?
Usually the way the auction works is there'll be a winning bidder. And then they'll be notified as to who that bidder is, and county residents, I believe, could go contact that firm and see if there's availability to purchase bonds.
Okay.
But that's the way the auctions run. And so it's typically purchased through broker dealer, underwriter and so forth. So
And it's typically through one entity that's the winning bidder?
typically, sometimes they bid as a group.
Okay,
There is typically there is a lead.
Okay.
Lead firm that would bid and win. If they have other syndicate members, they would, let us know that as well. But once we get the winning bidder, then that would be probably the way for residents to.
Right, they can use their own broker to make that contact.
Correct.
but I think that we need to let individuals know who the winning bidder is, so that if they choose to reach out through their contacts or brokerage or however they choose to do it.
And we will know that at the end of the auction, that time's up.
Okay. We'll figure out a way to get that information out so that if that's acceptable to the process.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you. Were there any other questions of the bond folks that we have from here?
I just like it that they're called the bonds team.
I know, it's like 007. All right, then I'll entertain a motion that for just approval of the ordinance.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Thank you all.
Thank you. All right, items 15 through 17 are all related to one another. We have Elizabeth Grant here to discuss them. She'll be discussing the bidding results, and then there are two motions that we will be needed to authorize to move forward with those results. So Elizabeth, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Sure. Good morning, commissioners. We have the first item is the discussion of the bid results for the heavy use area, the animal heavy use area and stacking facility. This project was put out to bid this month following county procedures. This is an animal heavy use area and waste stacking pad at a dairy located in Penn Township. The project is funded by the Countywide Action Plan funding from Department of Environmental Protection, as well as National Fish and Wildlife Foundation funding. And there is a 10% landowner cost share as part of this project. So the project was issued for bid this month. The bid opening was held on September 24th. And I am in receipt of the engineer's recommendation of award. One bid was received for this project. It came in below the engineer's cost estimate, which the engineer's cost estimate was $271,000 for this project. The bid received was $206,021.10, and it was received by Triple B Construction. This is a construction firm that is a qualified contractor, which has successfully completed several similar projects in the Cumberland County area. Therefore, the engineer has recommended the award of the contract or the award of the bid to Triple B Construction. And I guess I'll continue. So what we are seeking today would be authorization to award the bid to Triple B Construction and notify the bidder and proceed to obtain the required documentation, including an execution of agreement between the owner and the contractor, receipt of required insurance documentation, and performance and payment bonds.
Should we take these individually?
Yes, so the first motion is to award it to Triple B. The second motion is to allow execution of any contract documents, assuming they meet all the needs.
Okay, so I'll move to award to Triple B.
I'll second.
Just for notation, is it referenced Triple B? Or is it?
That was shared as part of the discussion on number 15.
Okay.
And it will be reflected in the minutes as such.
Okay. So there's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Second.
So I'll move to execute the contract.
Yeah.
I'll second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Elizabeth.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
The bid results can always be a little bit confusing, but we got through it. Okay. All right, that takes us into our contract section of the agenda. I'm gonna hand the meeting over to myself. So. All right, and we have Kim Winton here from Aging Community Services to discuss a contract. Good morning, Kim.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, commissioners. We are asking approval for a contract with Central Pennsylvania Food Bank. We have an allocation of $255,261.75, which we allocated to 9 food pantries who purchase products from Central Pennsylvania Food Bank to distribute in Cumberland County. This funding is from Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture for the State Food Purchase Program.
Any questions for Kim?
I don't have any. Would anyone else?
I will move to approve the Central Pennsylvania Food Bank contract.
I'll second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you so much, Kim.
Thank you.
All right, agenda item 19 is a contract for children and youth services, and I'll call on Jamie Reiber to discuss. Good morning, Jamie.
Good morning. This is an addendum to our Justice Works contract for this year, the 24-25 contract. We are adding 3 service lines for family group decision making. One is $3,000 for successful conference, $1,000 for a successful referral, and $250 for an unsuccessful referral. We do have another provider that provides these services. They bill on an hourly rate. However, this is very comparable to what the total cost is that we're spending for those family groups. And the cost includes all of the coordination and facilitation time, any materials they need, childcare, rental of space to hold the meetings, food and drinks for those that are in attendance. So it's just an all-inclusive rate.
Any questions for Jamie?
I do not
I do
have
not
any.
have any, and I will move to approve.
I'll second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jamie.
Thank you.
Agenda item 20 is a contract for the District Attorney's Office FID, and we have Eric Radnovich here to discuss. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning, commissioners. The contract before you is for Peter Krimsky. He's a firearms examiner. We'd like to bring him on as a consultant for a period of time to help us get the firearms lab started.
Any questions for Eric?
Eric, was this part of the grant funding for that project?
This originally was, and of course that got cut. We had to cut it out because of the construction costs going too high. So this is an independent contract.
Do you have any estimate on the hours that might be needed on this?
It has a lifetime cap of 30,000 on it. I don't think we're going to go anywhere near that. I just need him sparingly for questions that we have about as we go forward with the construction and implementation. So I want to use him sparingly. And I do have it in the secondary grant that we're applying for. I do have consulting money in that.
Does anyone else have other questions of Eric?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. We'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Here are you.
Yes.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you,
so much,
commissioners. Have a good day.
And you too. Next up.
That takes us to agenda item 21, and we have Katie Zimmerman in the room to discuss a grant application for facilities. Good morning, Katie.
Good morning, commissioners. So I am here for requesting two motions to approve applying for the LSA Category 4 grant and paying the $100 application fee to submit the application, as well as a motion to approve a resolution authorizing execution of all of the documents related to the grant. This is a $200,000 grant request to repair and replace slate on the main courthouse roof on the south and east sides. The total project cost estimate is $224,900. We chose the $200,000 grant amount looking at how much was approved in previous years and the amount available to grant, we thought that was a competitive amount. And while a match is not required for this grant, showing a little bit of county buy-in, I think, makes our application more competitive. So we estimate hearing back about this grant in the summer of 2025, but it's hard to know exactly when we'll hear. At that point, we would execute the contract and then order the slate, which takes a little bit of time to come in because it's a specialty product. So we estimate the project will begin in the spring of 2026. Brent is online to answer any questions you may have about the specifics of the project, and I can answer any questions you may have about the grant itself.
No questions from me on that. I know it's a highly competitive process, but you know, we certainly can't get money if we don't try. And I think that, you know, now that the county is very focused on applying for many grants, hopefully we can get lucky with some. So thank you.
We'll do our best to set ourselves up for success.
Yeah,
and that's all we can do.
You're right.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And we'll help in any way that we can.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Is there any discussion or questions of Katie or Brent at this time? I'll second. It's moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
And then item 22 is the resolution that Katie referenced, which is just allowing execution of the documents for the grant application.
I'll move
Solicitor
to
Brennan
approve
has
the,
reviewed.
yeah, I'll move to approve the resolution.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Katie. All right, that takes us to item 23. And I just accidentally closed what I had open to discuss that on Kirk's behalf. So give me 2 seconds here. All right, so agenda item 23 are contracts for our finance and liquid fuels department. They are both with HRG, and this is for them to perform scoping field view for our 3 bridge bundle, which includes bridges in South Middleton, Silver Spring, and Lower Frankfort, as well as the Quarry Bridge Road project in Cook Township. All 4 of these bridge projects have been approved by the commissioners previously and received funding through the HATS tip. This is the first step in the project where HRG will perform a scoping field view that will help verify the type and extent of improvements needed for the project. After this initial step, we will work with PennDOT to prepare the full scope of work that will guide all pre-construction activities for the projects. Funding is provided by the county bridge funding and the HATS tip. Municipal reimbursements will be requested at the rates identified in the agreements we have signed with each of the municipal participants. Are there any questions?
Nope, I do not have any. I will move to approve the contracts for finance liquid fuels as set forth on agenda item 23.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
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 I think I play Kirk Stoner pretty well.
I was gonna ask you a lot of questions, but you know, I'll keep them for Kirk.
Sounds good. That takes us to item 24, and I will call on Holly Sherman to discuss contracts for human resources. Good morning, Holly.
Good morning. We have 3 contracts. The first one is through Capital Blue Cross with Avalon. This is for the stop loss insurance for the county. It is a 0 rate increase for 2025. However, there's a slight $459 per year projected increase based on enrollment in our plan. The second contract is through CCAP, and that is for our volunteers. And it is a slight increase again of $86.25 for the year. And that is due to the increased number of volunteers across the county working with the various programs. And then the final contract for HR is for United Concordia for our dental programs. This is a new 3-year contract. We did go to market. The first year, and that's the amount that's being put before you right now, is an approximate increase of $47,400.48 for the year. That's an 8% increase over 2024, again, based on our claims data, which our dental insurance is a highly utilized program by our employees and their dependents, as well as enrollment. The out years of this 3-year contract are a not to exceed 6% rate cap for years 2 and 3. Any questions on any of the contracts?
Probably the dental, while it has gone up, that is employees pay into that as well as a part of their responsibility on the insurance.
That is correct, yes.
And then the only other question I had under the Christian Baker program, the volunteers, that does include all of our election workers as well?
Those are poll workers, so they are compensated, so just slightly. So they aren't considered volunteers. These are really probation, then down at planning and conservation, ag extension, those volunteers are what are included in those numbers. Public safety is another big number of volunteers as well.
Okay, thank you. So if anyone is compensated in any capacity, they're not deemed a volunteer?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Holly?
No, and I'll move to approve.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that takes us to agenda item 25, and we have Mark Evans here to discuss the contracts and grants for MHID. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning. Good morning, commissioners. I have 6 contracts to present today. The first is for IDD, Vista Autism Services. This is a decrease of $8,076 for fiscal year 24-25 due to the balance remaining from the previous fiscal year. The next 5 are all mental health contracts, and these are all going to be 6 months contracts due to the budget deficit that MH is currently working through right now, so they will all be decreases. Rural Social Rehabilitation Services would be a decrease of $74,682. Consumer Satisfaction Services, a decrease of $25,000. Living Unlimited, a decrease of $7,161. The NHS Stevens Center, a decrease of $1,476,026. And for Penn State Holy Spirit Medical Center, another decrease of $1,367,591.
Any questions for Mark?
No, Mark, my quick addition, that's about $1.5 million between all of those contracts that mental health that we are having to curtail based upon the current budgeting deficits that we're experiencing.
Correct.
So, thank you.
I think Mark, I'm just going to put this out there because I think it's important. Going to these 6 months contracts, this budget deficit is because of state funding. I think that's very important to be out there on the record, that this is because of state funding, a lack of state funding for mental health programs, and that we are managing this in the best way that we possibly can to still be able to take care of people and keep our budget where it needs to be. And the lack of state funding is causing problems in various areas of this county, including mental health. I think it's very important for people to know that. I agree, Commissioner, and I think that that's, this is something that unfortunately, as we've seen the, contracts coming in from these departments with the increases across the board, these are the unfortunate decisions that we are having to make to try and keep the county within budget and delivering services. So I know it's difficult, Mark. Thank you to you and your team for trying to manage this in the best possible way with the least impact to the consumers. And, we'll just hopefully be able to continue to provide as much service as possible for the dollars that we have available to use. So thank you to you and your team.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions of Mark, or would someone like to make a motion?
I'll move for approval.
I'll second. It's moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
All right, and Mark is also going to be discussing a capital project request for MHID.
Hello. This is for we're requesting AV equipment for both of our conference rooms. This is to install updated equipment in the 2 conference rooms. we are able to use all state funding from the IDD side to cover the payment for this.
And Mark, if I'm not mistaken, you're doing more of this training so that you don't have to go off-site, you know, and disrupt more day or travel time and that sort of thing, bringing it in-house?
Yes, correct.
Perfect.
Yeah, so a lot of this will be for use with Teams and Zoom and for staff meetings, and will give us a little more flexibility with having 2 rooms with that equipment instead of just 1.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other questions of Mark? Okay.
I think it's important, you know, we just talked about how we're going down to 6-month contracts because we have a mental health budget issue with the state. I think it's important to understand that the capital project dollars are coming from a different pool of money. So Mark, could you tell us about that a little bit, please?
Absolutely. They are all straight state dollars that are on the IDD side that we can use for projects like this. Yeah, we have a little more flexibility on the IDD side than we do on the MH side for sure.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I will move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark. Takes us to agenda item 27, and I will call on Travis Shank to discuss the contracts for the prison. Good morning, Travis.
Good morning, Commissioner. Good morning, Angela. Guess we need to get the amendment up to adult corrections.
No, but you're a few steps ahead.
The prison is looking to transition from the plate tracking system to the Guardian RFID technology system for our inmate location and monitoring system. Guardian RFID is the only inmate tracking system that supports integration with our current OMS system. This system will allow us to reduce our paper usage, enhance our security, provide a foolproof documentation system for meal distribution and precise inmate location. This transition will decrease the liability within the facility and provide a cloud-based storage system for our inmate history and documentation. The price of this system will be $130,539.33 with annual renewal cost of $59,436.75. The cost of the project will be $453,824.33, which will be paid for out of the canteen fund.
Any questions for Travis?
And ordinance indicates here it's a 6-year commitment that will be all paid through
Yes, ma'am.
canteen funds.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good. Will it help if people choose not to return to the prison to locate them outside of the prison walls, or does it not go that far?
It is not that long.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions of Travis, or should we just go right into the second one?
I will go into the second one. The prison is looking to renew and extend the current contract with JBI, the Justice Benefits Incorporated, for 4 years. JBI assists the prison with obtaining reimbursements through federal financial participation and are instrumental in assisting the prison in gaining SCAP funding, which provides federal payments to the state and local jails that incur correctional officer salary costs for incarcerating undocumented criminal aliens with at least 1 felony or 2 misdemeanor convictions for violations of state and local law and are incarcerated for at least 4 consecutive days during the reporting period. It is anticipated that the amount for this year will be $20,000, which will be a $5,000 increase from last year. JBI is paid 22% of the total. If we get 20, then they get 22% paid back to them.
Okay.
We've been with them since 2016. Any questions?
I don't have any. Are there any questions? Okay, we'll entertain a motion to approve the items for the warden.
I'll move to approve.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ward.
All right, that takes us to agenda item 28, and I will call on Bob Shively to discuss a contracting grant for public safety. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning again. Requesting approval for the Eaton Corporation contract. This is a follow-up to the capital we had approved back in August in the one-time amount of $97,877 to refresh the uninterruptible power supply and power conditioning unit for the public safety building. The unit conditions and monitors all of the power coming into the building, both commercial and from the generators.
You can discuss your next.
Oh, you want to, okay. And the second one is acceptance of the Hazardous Materials Response Fund grant in the amount of $23,192. That's a decrease of $4,350. Performance period is July 1st of 2024 through June 30th of 2025. Grant spending plan items include metering tubes, chlorine gasket kits, the self-contained breathing apparatus flow testing, replacement IT materials for checklists and referencing materials, training, and personal protective equipment.
Any questions for Bob on either item?
I don't have any. Thank you, Bob. And thanks, Bob. I'll move to approve.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Aye.
Thank you so much, Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to agenda item 29. I will call on Justin Miller to discuss a grant application for recycling waste. Good morning, Justin.
Good morning, everyone. These are the standard forms for our household hazardous waste disposal events. The two forms I need your signature on. One is called the Record of Operations Report. This is for our August event. That basically tells the state the various types of materials that we received and their corresponding weights. I'll give you the grand total. We took in 28,207 pounds from 346 customers. The second form is the application for reimbursement. The state will reimburse costs up to 50%. So our total eligible costs were $27,549. We took in $13,812.75 in fees, which makes us eligible for $13,736.25 grant reimbursement.
Any questions for Justin?
Justin, a kind of an aside, there's been a bit of confusion surrounding the recycling center and it potentially closing. That is not, in fact, the case, correct? You're going to continue to operate and run these recycling events at the location.
That is correct, Kelly. There was an article recently that caused confusion, but I'd like the public to know that we're not doing away with any of our services. Matter of fact, the electronics recycling will be open Saturday, and we have our last household hazardous waste event of the year coming up towards the end of October. So services will continue as usual.
Great, thank you very much, just for confirming that. Anyone like to make a motion?
I will move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. 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 Thanks, Justin.
Thank you so much, Justin. All right, agenda item 30 is a capital project request for the treasurer's office, and we have Katie Isley and Kelly Tomzak here to discuss.
Good morning, commissioners. We come before you today because we are looking to purchase new software for collecting the hotel tax and for compliance of short-term rentals in the county. The current software that we have, it is not adequate for what the office needs, and therefore we are looking to move to a different software.
Are there any questions?
The funding for this is from the retained fee that we keep for the processing of collections, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And if I understand correctly, this enhancement is partially related to the fact that the existing software was acquired by another company that is not meeting the expectations, unfortunately.
Yes, that is correct.
And Ms. Tomzak, will you be here and available for implementation of this change to the software system?
I will.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other questions.
I move to approve.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. All right, that takes us to agenda item 31, which is Commissioners' Liaison Reports. And we'll start with you, Commissioner Naderer.
Yes, I was out of the office for a week, and I want to thank my colleagues for just taking care of business as I was completely out of pocket. So it was a little bit slow, but prior to leaving, I attended the West Shore Theater ribbon cutting to celebrate their mural along with Commissioner Bashi. I Upon return, attended the Cumberland County Joint Chamber Mega Mixer, which was quite an event, held at the Members First. Additionally, attended the Cumberland County Fire and EMS Memorial Service, which, Bob, was beautiful. Your team did a really lovely job. Senator Rothman was in attendance. Commissioner Fashi also attended, and it was very moving and very, very well done. Thank you to you and your staff. I believe Claudia took
Claudia and the honor guard.
Claudia took a major role. Thank you. It was lovely. I attended the New Hope Ministries open house in Enola, and that is just an amazing program that they're operating all over the county. We're so blessed to have them in multiple locations across Cumberland County, delivering much needed service. I attended the Cumberland County Farm Bureau annual meeting, as well as the attended a Fund Development Committee meeting for the Tri-County Community Action. As it relates to my board liaison activity, the CADIC board had a board meeting and a work session. I'll just highlight a few of the items from the board meeting. The finance report is looking a little wonky. There was a delay in the remission of the hotel tax that has them off budget, but they assure that it will be caught up with the payment becoming received. There were 4 grant applications approved. There were grant applications approved for the LSA 4 category grant. There were, I believe, 7 with a total of roughly $3 million, the largest of which is for the fire department in Mechanicsburg. They're looking to combine and do a new facility. So hopefully they will be lucky in receiving some of that money. We ratified the request for Penn Harris's RACP grants. There were 2 grants for a total of $3 million. Additionally, the staff met with 5 LSA statewide, so they will be our competitors. Katie had some things to submit grant applications. The window for the submission to CADIC is the end of September, I believe. Actually, it's November 1st, so that they have time for processing. So if anyone is interested in meeting, reach out to CADIC for an LSA statewide grant. You have to do that sooner than later. 2 tourism grants were approved for $141,734 in funding. And CADIC's new website, cumberlandbusiness.com, is up and running. And that is really has been a critical piece that has been lacking in their ability, I think, to educate people on their services. So I'm anxious to see the utilization on that to help them also with processing applications. So hopefully we will see that up and running and meeting what their expectations were on their new website. There is an economic development event on November 13th, and DCED Secretary Seeger is going to be attending that. And that was kind of the highlights from the board meeting. And then a board retreat was held where various parts of the strategic plan were discussed, and the board provided guidance to the staff as it relates to how to get more tactical within those items of the strategic plan. Items such as, should they focus on big loans or small loans? Should there be industry focus with their efforts? Percentage of time spent on retention versus attraction in Cumberland County to businesses. So all in all, I thought it was a very good working session, and I'm encouraged by the direction that Janet is taking the organization at this time. I was running a little bit behind schedule this morning as I attended the CREDIC board meeting over in Harrisburg. Luckily, the traffic wasn't bad. They always start off their meetings with a mission story, and there was a really lovely one shared regarding Hidden Still. I believe it's in Derry Township. How they got into Iraqi and got into the process, but it changed around their circumstances changed, and how they were able to work with them to really wrap up a good process for a not only just completion of the RACP, but then to actually acquire real estate, which wasn't a part of the original transaction. So the expertise of their lending group is really impressive. And the Melissa Stone, who is their Vice President of Economic Development, did a loan deep dive for the group, which was very helpful, and highlighted Classic Rock that they've worked with in a number of ways. Oftentimes people are a bit critical of these loan programs and saying, well, they're just giving low-cost loans. The intent is to give low-cost loans so that companies can grow and expand. And she cited several really wonderful examples of that, with Classic being one of them. And Jamal Jones did an update on the Impact Harrisburg. There was a study examining the disparities of contractors that are used, quite frankly, in Dauphin County for services, and that they're not necessarily using minority-owned contract services to their full advantage. So they are going to be setting about a plan to really engage more with minority contractors to develop outreach and to engage them in the process. So that was about where I got with that group and had to head out, but they were doing a strategic plan update. And of course, Ryan Unger, who runs the group, does an amazing job. And I know you were recently with that team, Dean, and I missed his update. So I'll have to follow up with Ryan on that. That's it for me.
All right, thank you so much. Commissioner Fauci?
Okay, so I've done a lot of things in the past 2 weeks. So I sat down with Jay Lehman and his team, and we had a meeting over at the Public Safety Building, which is a great place to have a meeting. Really, the facilities are fantastic. Interested in bringing an affordable housing project to Cherry Street here in Carlisle, and talked with them, and I'm in the process of connecting them with people. On Monday, boy, this was unbelievable. Keep Our Republic had an event at Widener University to educate voters about our election system and to build trust in elections. And I was on a panel with Governor Corbett, Secretary Schmidt, Judge Bob Gracie. And we talked about elections in not only in Cumberland County, but in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And that was just a fantastic forum, lots of excellent audience questions. And I know you can catch that on PCN, and there's some news coverage of it. So then on
Commissioner, you were interviewed and did a very good job.
Thank
So
you.
that's, I forget, was it 27? So if anybody wants to go watch the clip. Thank you. On Tuesday then, and I've got to give a shout out to Katie Zimmerman and a shout out to Kirk Stoner. Is Tuesday, Katie and I joined, and George Hartwick and Justin Douglas from our Dauphin County Commissioners and business leaders from the region. And we went to the White House, and we had a briefing at the White House where we talked with Jackson Spivey of the Office of Public Engagement, Sam Silverberg, the Deputy Assistant to the President for Infrastructure Implementation, Dan Coe, the Deputy Assistant to the President and Deputy Director of the Office of Intergovernmental Affairs, Michael Negron, the Special Assistant to the President for Economic Policy, National Economic Policy, and Carolina Young, the Chief Economic Advisor for the Office of the Vice President. We talked about business in this region and what it needs. And the business leaders that went on this trip were so engaged and had so many great suggestions, and we made fabulous connections. And I didn't know this, and I'm sure Katie didn't know this. There's at the Office of Intergovernmental Relations at the federal government, there's a person assigned to counties, right? And now we have this person's information. And so just bringing that home was great, but it really was a great trip. And I want to thank Kirk Stoner because I had a commitment to Cumberland Perry Domestic Violence Services for their forum that evening. And I was to co-moderate that with Stephanie Spurgeon. And he was like, you've got to go to the White House. And so he co-moderated that event
in my place and really sent me the nicest email about what a great job Stephanie Spurgeon did with that event and how impressed he was and how engaged he was with that group. So, and I knew that was going to be a fabulous panel that she had put together. So happy that all of those things worked out.
And Gina, I didn't want to steal your thunder, and at the Cretic meeting, they were talking about exactly that trip that was organized and just the real positive results that they hope come from it. And the business owners were giving them really great examples of, quite frankly, not being paid in a time as a contractor to the federal government, that they aren't getting paid in a timely manner, and the strain that it makes on their business. And quite frankly, when they have to lay off employees because they can't pay them because they're not getting paid, it's not good for the region, and it's not good for certainly for the individuals that are affected. So hopefully that can be.
There were two business owners that talked about that. But when you wait 210 days for payment from the federal government, how it really throws everything off. There was a gentleman there with an AI company. And boy, did I learn a lot about what's coming up in terms of AI. And that was really fantastic. Godar from the Reykjavik Creamery was there. Just really great business leaders within the region. So I also did all of my commissioner liaison things. Housing and Redevelopment Authority, I brought this with me. So I have the financial statements and independent auditors reports for the Housing Authority and the Redevelopment Authority. Smith Marion was at the meeting and they advised that this will never be late like this again. And I reminded them that when these audits are late, it puts us in jeopardy in terms of our AAA bond rating and our credit rating. But I have them if anyone wants to look at them. So that meeting, I thought it was very productive, and boy, they talked about the turnover that created this issue, some issues with just kind of figuring things out, but I'm confident moving forward that will not be happening anymore. I went to the Planning Commission. Boy, it was good to go back to planning. And there's one thing that you can get all this information about the Planning Commission online. You can go, you pull up every piece that's in that on the agenda, interactive maps from planning, but this I think is really important. So Dickinson Township denied an ag security area for West Cumberland Partners. And they denied it because of the use of FPRs on that property. And talked about what a health hazard that is and what an environmental hazard FPRs are. And the other thing that came out of that though, so there's that piece, right? And then on the other side of the equation, when an FPR restriction is put on an ag area, then you can't preserve that farm. So it's not allowed to be preserved. So we've got this dichotomy, right? And the best thing the state can do is figure out how we're going to deal with FPRs. They've got to get in front of this and deal with it. And I know there was an attempt at it in the spring. I'm really hoping this comes back to the table in the fall in terms of a bill that really works for everyone, because neither's any good, right? We have to have preservation and we have to have healthy people and clean water and air that children can breathe. So that came out of planning. I thought it was very important.
But it is an interesting thing, and thank you for attending on my behalf when I was out, because instead of folks saying they want to see a beautiful bucolic farm, now they're saying develop it, because I'd rather have homes across from me than this potentially dangerous FPR spread that I have to live with very, very intimately, either in my well water or through smells every day. So it's definitely coming to a head on several fronts.
Yes. And I have the decision from Dickinson if you want to look at it. I brought that along. The Cumberland County Library System, they met on September 16th. I would remind you to use the library system. The summer reading program was a super success, with libraries reporting 6,508 children, youth, and teen residents or registrants, and 2,255 adult registrants in the summer learning programs. I know, what a fantastic thing. And I know I've talked about this before, that the library offers this program where you can learn languages and it's free. And so I'm bringing that up again because I've talked to some constituents about how they pay for apps that do that. And you know what? They're free at the library and they're very similar to what you're paying for. And you know, there it is, another fantastic service. Should have practiced my Spanish a little more. Yeah. You can. Linda Rice, a longtime New Cumberland Library employee, as well as a board member and the president of the Cumberland County Library System Board, has resigned and retired. Yeah, so I wanted to put that out there, and boy, really thank Linda for all the fabulous things that she has done for the library system. She's just such a great lady.
She ran Bosler for a number of years and did an amazing job, I think, ushering that expansion project and did a great job there. Yeah.
Yes.
Big thanks to Linda.
Big thanks to Linda. Conservation District, I did not make it to the Conservation District meeting because I was at the White House or I was going to do the domestic violence event and Carl cleared me to not go. But I will remind you that their golf tournament is on Friday. And that's going to be super exciting. I can't golf. I have hats in the morning. I know Commissioner Nieder is going to golf, but I will be there to give out the awards in the afternoon.
We might have a hurricane rain problem.
Oh.
So I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know. That's going to be a bummer. But that golf tournament, they use that to raise money for scholarships for students who want to invest in education surrounding conservation. And that's great, really great. You know, the LEPC summit is coming up. I would be remiss if I did not tell you that the local emergency planning committee is putting together probably the best summit that they've ever had. So I think that's it. I think I'm going to wind up. I'm sure I could.
Very good. Busy week.
Thank you. Commissioner Eichelberger?
Okay, a handful of things. Let's see, the MHID meeting last week, I attended. A lot of that's already been shared with you, so I won't belabor those points. Did want to mention one of the things is a little focus on the early intervention side, which we often don't get to discuss very much. So they Mark reported they continue to receive a very high number of referrals for early intervention. As caseloads are very high, they're seeing more children and families with complex needs, Perry County in particular. So they're hosting a training for EI staff. That's a panel presentation of child care providers and EI therapists who are successfully using coaching model of service delivery at the centers. So they're very active. The rest of the discussion, the meeting was sort of a rediscussion of the budget issues, some of which still being hashed out. Mark did let me know. I've not received an update from Annie since the meeting, so there's really nothing new on that side of the report right now. But the management team on the IDD side, as you'll recall, received their significant number of waiver allocations, and they're in the process right now. Their meetings to disperse those, do the needs assessments, and then assign those where they can do the most good. Obviously, limited resource. So, also, Mark was very proud to tell us about the Project Search interns finished their training and are being deployed throughout the county offices now. I don't think they've been around yet, or if they have, I missed that. They have not? Okay.
I don't think
I think we started with 5 and we're 4 now, so it's not unusual, but we're always happy to welcome a new class here and do our part in addressing the need for meaningful employment for folks coming out of the system. So let's see that. Last week, the Blighted Property Board met and we did have an opportunity to review and approve quite a number of properties to move forward in the process toward demolition, acquisition. A number of properties were put on hold because of pending this very conventional. Some of the properties have to, it's a very strenuous process to ensure we're guaranteeing people's property rights. So there's a number of things that are still going to be on the back burner for a while to work through the process. On the affordable housing side, I did want to mention, I think the colleagues are aware that the Safe Harbor has been floating a proposal here to perhaps use some dollars to bring, they have a significant opportunity to bring some very good affordable housing stock online in the general Carlisle area. And Scott Schul has spoken to each of us, and we've now been able to schedule a meeting with Mary Kuna next week. She's aware of what's going to be asked. So looking forward to that and hoping that
the pieces fall in place and we can actually make some real progress on that and get it's actually a long-term redevelopment plan that would allow for phased introduction of units for a period of years and bring some of that housing stock back. So Safe Harbor, of course, always on the forefront of looking for new and exciting ways to provide for those needs, and look forward to that meeting, Scott and Larry.
They're just doing such great work, Scott and his team, that with Harbor House coming online and then this pursuing this project, that I mean, it will really, they're making a tradition, really an impactful movement on the housing. It's fantastic. That meeting that we had with DCED here was so timely on that, because Scott then was introduced to that neighborhood assistance program, funding from DCED, that I think will really help with that project. I agree.
Yeah, that's one of those things that, in my opinion, is very highly dependent on the individual doing the work. Scott's just a gem. Fortunate to have him carrying the ball and a lot of that stuff. They're always looking for ways forward despite the obstacles. Since it was mentioned, I did want to say about that. I attended the Farm Bureau as well, Farm Bureau annual dinner, and I was hoping we would hear a lot more about PRs. It was mentioned in passing, but as was mentioned, that there was progress made in spring that was essentially vetoed by the State Farm Bureau. So there's been kind of a reset back to step one. I'm hoping there's going to be more reporting to us on something happening there, because it's not going to die. It's an issue that's going to be around for a while. And I did talk to Carl Goshorn a little bit about, since he's our representative on our committee. I think we'll be hearing more about that coming forward. A little disappointed that the local Farm Bureau didn't pay a little bit more attention to it. And they've got their hands full with a bunch of things, but apparently it's gotten caught with some of the politics between the state and the Farm Bureau. So their hands were obviously tied.
Carrie, it seemed like they were, they're walking a fine line on that, because I think there's a lot of division amongst their members as to pro or anti FPR. So I got the impression they weren't really interested in talking about
they did
that
not.
meeting.
They had a little episode about it that we didn't want to go into. They didn't want to go into, and I don't need to focus on that. But I have I'm in agreement with that. I think that division is more at the state level than at the local level, but we've never really received much pushback from them during our engagement with them in the past or PRs that I'm aware of. Maybe one-on-ones, folks have encountered that, but they recognize it's an issue. How it's handled, obviously, is very important. That's the discussion at the meeting was about those types of issues, how it's handled. So hopefully we can proceed carefully on that and rekindle some of the interest in that. I'm sure we're going to continue to get calls from the public. This issue is not going away. It's very relevant, as reported earlier. So
At the dinner, did the Farm Bureau by chance talk about being at Paula's Farm Market on Saturday?
Yeah.
I stopped by and they had a cow, really just this gorgeous cow, and they let kids milk that cow. And I mean, they are so involved in the community, and it was great. And kids were just like, whoa. And, what I thought was really great is that cow has a nutritionist visit it twice a week. Oh my God. And then they were showing me, they picked it up, everything, what that cow eats, and it's just unbelievable. And dairy's so important.
There's science, a whole lot of science to it.
Yes, but I'm glad they mentioned that.
But yeah, in discussing it, they were pretty animated about it. So they obviously recognize it's got a lot of appeal in terms of connecting to the public. It's that's just kind of a master stroke, and let the kids learn how to milk a cow. So they were pretty excited about it, justifiably so. The only other items I have, CCAP governance committee's coming up. As you know, they play a key role in the agenda. I haven't received the plan for that meeting yet, but expect to be reporting some of that in the near future. We heard from Justin regarding his agenda items today. He did suggest that I mentioned the final household hazardous waste event for this year, Thursday, October 24, 11 to 5. Sam, you don't need to write this down. I know you already know about it. So, and that, of course, is where we collect the common household wastes, old paint, old gasoline, pesticides, pool chemicals, drain cleaners, degreasers, car care products, And in my case, old wood seal that's got a little thick, but so that's coming up. They have 200, it's early yet. Obviously that's October 24th. They have 200 registration spots open. So anybody who's interested in that, anybody listening, go online, register. They got plenty of room left. Judd also mentions that the 2025 events will be announced after they review the 2024 results following this event, and they'll have to obtain all the reviews, but there's still a lot of demand for that. They get great response for that. So there'll be upcoming events, which does lead to the point that was reiterated earlier. These events will continue into 2025. There was some confusion by the article in the Sentinel, which reported about the authority, which is legally expiring. That is true, but everything's being folded into the planning department. Years ago, the funding mechanism went away, so the authority stopped acting as an authority, and its function has been handled as a departmental function. And it's a little bit of an unusual situation, so it's not surprising it caused some confusion. But all those functions are coming back, and I think there'll be probably an early announcement regarding that, just to reinforce that, hey, we're still out there, still meeting this need. I mentioned about the governance committee already, so Judd wanted me to mention that communications is always extremely helpful in promoting these events, and he wanted us to express our gratitude for the job you do on that. So that's why I said you don't have to write it down. I know it's already on the manifests there. So that's it. That's all I have.
And Gary, I just happened to notice that I think MH is doing a QPR training was announced. So if anyone is interested in participating in that, is it posted, Samantha?
I saw that on social.
I saw it somewhere.
I saw that on social, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know when you get so much stuff hitting your feed, you're not sure which one you saw it on.
Yeah.
But so that's question, persuade, refer. If anyone has interest in attending that training, please go to our website.
I believe the Commission for Women is doing that too.
Yeah. Yes, they reposted, I believe, as well. Yeah, so very good. There's training out there. If anyone's interested, please utilize that.
By the way, they've trained 142 individuals in QPR to date this year. So that's that many more people out there to help.
Yep.
Makes a difference.
Yep. Hopefully it will, that's for sure.
Thank you, commissioners. All right, I would like to report that an executive session was held on September 19th, 2024 at 9:30 a.m. regarding personnel. And at this time, I'll ask, is there any other business to come before the board? Hearing none, we are adjourned.
Very good. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.